What's up, Transformers fans? I know I'm a day late, but welcome to week 14 of Moonbase 84's celebration of 40 years of Grimlock and the Dinobots. And for this week, I wanted to talk about my favorite iteration currently for the Dinobots, that being the Dinobots from the Transformers Fall of Cybertron video game. Right off the bat, sad to say that when it comes to toys from this version of the Dinobots, officially we only got the Grimlock from back in the day when the game first came out, and he's only a so-so figure. So my hope is that with Transformers Studio Series, maybe we can get an updated Grimlock and the rest of the Dinobot team. Unofficially, the third-party company Planet X has released a full set of Dinobots from Fall of Cybertron, and they look awesome. They are pricey, but I mention these now also because they are starting to get reissued once again. I don't have these guys, but I really do want them. As for the Dinobots in the game itself, I just fell in love with the character designs that they chose to use for the game. Just a really cool, like a modern take on their G1 looks, and they just look really badass in the game. The War and Fall of Cybertron video games were all about, big, powerful, bombastic set pieces, and these Dinobots fit in perfectly, and they just had a very commanding presence whenever they were in the game. The game's developers just did an amazing job with these Dinobots. In game, you only got to play as Grimlock, but I loved how they handled Grimlock in this game. Kind of like an Incredible Hulk character. You couldn't transform into Dino mode at will. You had a rage meter, and the more ass he kicked, that meter built up until he transformed and went into full-on beast mode, and it was an awesome time. Playing as Grimlock, you just felt like an unstoppable force, and it is still to this day one of my favorite video game experiences ever. I also really liked the Dinobots characterization in the game. They weren't the dim-witted bozos from G1. They were more like the characterization of the Dinobots that we originally got in the Marvel comics, which is they had intelligence. They weren't just dumb brutes. And also, just like the Marvel comics, their creation of becoming the Dinobots centers around Shockwave. He's a player in their creation, and in this game he actually does experiments on them and turns them into the beast that they become. Grimlock suffers the most from these experiments as his mind is being affected, and it's getting harder and harder for him to think, which is a really interesting way to handle the Dinobots' lack of intelligence, or maybe eventual loss of their intelligence totally. Really, really cool. While really awesome, the brief time that we got to spend with the Dinobots in the Fall of Cybertron game left me wanting more, but thankfully IDW had delivered, and we do have comics centered around this version of the Dinobots. I bring the comics up because this month we're going to be taking a closer look at those comics and delve deeper into this iteration of the Dinobots. So that's this week's episode of our celebration of 40 years of Grimlock and the Dinobots. I know this week's video is kind of on the short side, but you really have to play the game to truly understand what I mean and get the feeling of how awesome these Dinobots are, and read the comics. And as I said, we're going to be talking about those comics throughout this month. Do you guys love this version of the Dinobots as much as I do, or is it something that you've never experienced before? If you haven't experienced the game, I urge you to try to play it. I'm hoping that those rumors of them remastering the War and Fall of Cybertron games are true, because that would be really incredible. Comment to let us know your thoughts below, and as always, thanks for docking.